Thank you for joining us for today's Second Chance Town Hall. I'm Mark McCombs. I'm the Executive Director of Colby House, the jail and prison ministry for the Archdiocese of Chicago. It's my pleasure to be your host today and welcome everybody on board. If we can just take a second to get ourselves in the proper framework and say a quick prayer, bow your heads. In the name of the Father, the Son, and Holy Spirit. Heavenly Father, knowing what a special place you keep in your heart for those of us who have been in prison, we come to you again and we ask you to give everyone strength, the strength to be able to set aside everything that keeps the light that is your love from shining brightly in our hearts and upon those behind bars and those re-entering their communities. We ask this through your Son, our Lord Jesus Christ, and through the intercession of our patron here in Chicago, St. Maximilian Kolbe. Amen. I want to take just a second to introduce our very distinguished panel of speakers today. First of all will be Christy Williams. Christy joined Catholic Charities USA in January 2022 to oversee the organization's immigration and criminal justice reform advocacy portfolios. Christy previously served as staff attorney for the Catholic Legal Immigration Network, where she worked for 6 years in various capacities, including managing the state policy portfolio and providing advocacy and legislative support to state Catholic conference directors on immigration matters. Christy holds a JD in international law and a BA in criminal justice. Sue Haverman is currently the Director of Workforce Development at St. Patrick's Center, a graduate of Fort Bone University with a master's in nonprofit management and a bachelor's degree in workforce education and development from Southern Illinois University Carbondale at Scott Air Force Base. Her passion for over 20 years has been providing opportunities for disadvantaged populations, giving a hands up to build employment skills and career guidance for a brighter future. And Karen Hoeger joined Catholic Charities in December 2020 as the jail and prison Reentry coordinator in the Dubuque, Iowa area. She provides case management to formerly incarcerated individuals as they work towards their housing, employment, and financial stability goals. She also trains and coordinates with volunteers. Kate holds a bachelor's degree in social work from the University of Northern Iowa, a little different. And previously, she served in criminal justice. She served criminal justice involved clients with the state of Colorado for over 11 years as a probation officer, problem-solving court coordinator, probation supervisor. She is passionate about empowering people to succeed in ways that they never thought of. So welcome, everyone. Before we get started, Christy will be starting us off with a Second Chance Month overview. But if you have any questions, please put them in the chat and we'll reserve some time. I'll be monitoring the chat and we'll reserve some time at the end of the presentations to get your questions answered. I'll present them on your behalf to the various speakers. So with that, Christy, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Mark. And I want to say thank you to the Catholic Prison Ministry Coalition for the opportunity to participate in this month's town hall. It's an exciting month, Second Chance Month, and it's a privilege to provide an overview of the Second Chance Initiative. Again, I oversee the development and implementation of Catholic Charities USA's advocacy priorities on criminal justice reform issues. Here on the government relations team, we're based right outside of DC in Alexandria, Virginia, and my work really involves tracking legislation, federal policies on criminal justice issues, and working alongside our leadership to develop and implement advocacy priorities that align with the Catholic Charities mission on these issues. So it's Second Chance Month, and while I share my screen here, I want to just say that it's important to really look back at how Second Chance became a thing, and why we're also excited about it, and what we're looking forward to in the months and years to come. So Second Chance really comes from the Second Chance Act, which is a law that was passed in 2008 and was signed into law by President Bush. And it was the first time Congress and the executive branch intentionally invested in recidivism reduction and reentry programs. And so that was an exciting time. Catholic Charities USA was a part of the coalition of advocacy organizations that worked together with members of Congress to see this bill through to become law. And so it was an exciting time. And just want to highlight a few key priority provisions in the bill. There were many great provisions in the bill to kick us off with, Second Chance Initiative. But just highlighting a few for today's conversation. The bill provided grants to nonprofits, state and local government agencies for providing reintegration services. And that included mentoring programs, that included providing transitional services such as, housing assistance or food and nutrition assistance or job training and financial education skills. It also provided funding for substance use treatment and counseling for families, and that promoted the Catholic Church and Catholic Charities USA's mission to promote family unity. So we were excited that that was included in the bill. Job training and education programs in jails and prisons was also included in the law at the time, and that really aimed to prepare people with marketable skills so that when they do re-enter society, they're able to find a job. And then importantly, it authorized research and research on effective re-entry strategies, just to track and see what was working, what wasn't working, what needed to be invested in more or expanded more. And that paid off in the long run, because 15 years later, we have milestones to share and be excited about, right? So in 2024 now, we're 15 years down the line, and several things have happened along the way since 2009 when the law was first implemented. So since then, Second Chance Act has been reauthorized at least once by President Trump. And since since the reauthorization of the bill, since the implementation in 2009 and through 2022, over $600 million have been dispersed to state and local agencies across the country to fund second chance initiatives and to make re-entry from incarceration to society a little bit less difficult. And that $600 million, you can see in the next bullet point, has led to a state level reincarceration rate dropping by over 20%. And so that's a plus. That's an exciting update. It means that the program is doing what it's supposed to do, and we want it to see it being sustained and expanded over a period of time, and improved every time that it comes up for reauthorization. And we're talking about people, not just numbers, not just spreadsheets, not just dollars, right? We're talking about people. So over 400,000 people's lives have been touched by second chance initiatives across the country through the Second Chance Act. So that's the exciting update that we're really happy to share 15 years in. And I want to just highlight briefly, and you'll hear from my colleagues on this panel about some of the work that Catholic Charities agencies are doing across the country with regard to reentry. But I just want to highlight from a national perspective, since I'm here in the DC area and focus nationally on the Catholic Charities ministry in the reentry space, to give you a bird's eye overview of what the entire Catholic Charities network do in this space. So So over 50 Catholic Charities agencies nationwide provide a range of services to people that are re-entering society from incarceration or serving people that have been involved in the justice system, even if they did not go to jail or prison. To your right of the screen is a list of just a handful of the services that the various agencies across the country provide. And I won't go through all of them, but in the interest of time, but that's just a snapshot of the different stabilizing services that the agencies provide to accompany our sisters and brothers that need help reintegrating, rebuilding their lives, and reconnecting with their loved ones in society. And so one of the key things that I am so proud of that the Catholic Charities Network does in this space is just to ensure that people who are experiencing, the most vulnerable circumstances in their lives. I mean, imagine someone who has been disconnected from society for many decades, coming into society where so much has changed, being able to get mentorship and given the tools necessary to reconnect with loved ones in the community, but to also do it in a way that is dignified and give them empower them to feel that they too can contribute something to society, right? And so that is the goal, to ensure that whatever happened moving forward, the person needs to see that they too are a valuable member of society that we all want to see succeed and have and make meaningful contributions to society. And so that is the goal of the Reentry Ministries of the Catholic Charities Network. And you'll hear again from some of my colleagues on this call. Providing services to people reentering is not the only way that we try to promote justice reform initiatives in the system. As I mentioned, a lot of my work involves tracking policies and legislation at the federal level and implementing advocacy strategies around that. And so I just want to highlight just a few of our recent advocacy priorities that we've been pursuing within the 118th Congress. And we'll talk a little bit more in the next couple of slides about some of the exciting updates on the legislative and regulatory front that I cannot wait to share with you. So the Reentry Act is a bill that has been introduced in the House of Representatives as well as the Senate here in Washington, D.C. And Catholic Charities USA submitted a letter in support of the bills, and they aim to expand Medicaid coverage to people that are re-entering society. And the goal is to ensure that before people are released into society, they can have access to Medicaid coverage. That's a challenge. We see that when people do come home, they often are too sick to work. They are too sick to meet, their obligations with parole or probation, or sometimes they're just too sick to rebuild. And the goal is to ensure that they have the necessary support to continue their treatment, to seek medical care, so that a healthy person can maintain a job, can find a job, can be able to engage in activities that will promote a successful reentry. The other bill that was a priority for us, and we're hoping that it's going to come up before the end of this legislative session and advance through the legislative process, is the Restore Act. Catholic Charities USA also signed on to a letter of support for that bill, and it's to eliminate the ban on SNAP benefits for people with drug-related conviction histories. Again, ensuring that people have the basic needs to the basic necessities daily, such as food, a place to sleep, medical care, can make reentry less challenging. And so we support this bill and hope that Congress will advance it. FY 2025 funding appropriations is also a priority. Every year, we engage Congress to adequately fund Department of Justice programs such as the Second Chance programs to ensure that reentry initiatives are fully funded so that community-based agencies such as Catholic Charities can receive the necessary funding needed to provide the transitional services that they offer to our sisters and brothers involved in the justice system. And last but not least, and exciting, the Second Chance Act reauthorization bill is something that we've been advocating for all year. And I'm so excited to share with all of you that just 2 days ago, the Second Chance Reauthorization Act was introduced in the House of Representatives. I don't have a bill number to share with you because it is spanking brand new. And so we're waiting for a bill number and a bill text. A Senate version is expected to be introduced any day now. And I just want to say thanks to the lead sponsors of the bill, Congresswoman Miller and Congressman Davis, and there are 8 other bipartisan co-sponsors of the House bill. Senator Cory Booker is one of the lead sponsors of the Senate version of the bill, and so we're super excited about that. Key provisions that I want to highlight for you is that are the bill again reauthorizes programs for community-based services through 2029. So if the bill is approved and signed by President Biden, it'll be reauthorized for 5 years. Congress can only give money or appropriate funding to authorized programs. And so it is critical to ensure that the Second Chance Act is reauthorized. It also expands the allowable uses for supportive and transitional housing for people that are reentering society, as you may hear from my colleagues who will be speaking about the services that they provide and others who are in your community that provide reentry services. Housing access is a major challenge for people re-entering society. And so we're super excited that this bill expands allowable uses for housing. And then addiction treatment services is another key component of ensuring that people stay on the right track and do not reoffend. And so we're really excited to see that programs that aim to reduce addiction is also included in the authorization bill. So exciting stuff. So through legislation or the legislative process is one way that improvements can be made to the reentry or the Second Chance initiative and processes, but policy as well is another avenue to affect change. And I'm also super excited to tell you about proposed regulations from the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD. As I mentioned in the previous slide, housing has been a challenge, or access to housing has been a challenge for people involved in the justice system. And so HUD has prioritized expanding access to housing for people with conviction histories. And this is just a second, I believe it's the second iteration of proposals that HUD has put forth. It was, I believe, at the beginning of the Biden administration when HUD made some additional changes to the policies and procedures for admitting people with conviction histories into public housing. And so we're excited to see that there are proposals now to reform that process and improve outcomes for people needing access, needing public housing. So 2 key provisions. I'm still reading the rule. The rule is close to about 100 pages, so it's a pretty thick rule. So I really don't have like specific details, but I just want to highlight two key updates from the summary of the proposed regulation. One exciting update is that the proposed rule would require public housing agencies and assisted housing owners to consider multiple factors prior to any discretionary denial of or termination of someone's application for public housing based on criminal activity. That's something that we heard a lot from service providers who were saying that a lot of the people that they were assisting through the process would receive arbitrary denials without a clear indication of what those denials were for. So it's exciting to see that reforms are being made to clarify that. And then the other thing was the look back period. Look back period basically means how far back a PHA can look into someone's history for disqualifying criminal activity, right? And so we also got conflicting feedback from the field. Some people their criminal history were being looked at as far back as 5 or 10 years. And some people were experiencing much longer look back periods. And so to see that HUD has prioritized addressing that gap is also an exciting update. So there's a comment period for these proposed regulations. And so if you or your organization want to submit public comments in response to the proposals that HUD has put forth, please note that you have until June 10th to submit your comments. So how can you stay engaged with Catholic Charities USA's advocacy efforts? 2 ways. By texting CCUSA to the number on your screen, you will receive action alerts from us with regard to reentry advocacy, but also for other advocacy efforts on social policy issues such as housing, food and nutrition, disaster relief, and all of the anti-poverty issues that Catholic Charities USA advocates on. The other way to stay engaged is by signing up for the Washington Weekly. This is a weekly newsletter that the government relations team here at CCUSA produces every week, and it goes out on Friday with the updates of the week of the ongoings here in Washington. And it's a great way to not only track what we're doing, but a good way to also receive action alerts. Lastly, here's my contact information. If you have any questions or would like to reach out about my presentation today, or you just want to know a little bit more about the government relations team here at Catholic Charities USA and the different social policy issues that we advocate on, especially second chance initiatives, feel free to contact me. And I am open for your questions. And again, thank you so much for the opportunity to present.
Thank you so much, Christy. As I said before, anyone, if you have any questions, please put them in the chat, and we'll reserve some time at the end of the presentation to try and get all your questions answered. Sue Haverman from St. Patrick's Center is next. And Sue, you have a guest there. Well, that appreciate if you could introduce.
Yes, I have with me Will Simmons. He is now an employee here, and he will tell you more about his story in a minute. It's really kind of fascinating. Anyway, St. Patrick's Center is a uses a housing first model. So here in St. Louis, we're actually have been known for housing people and keeping them housed. I'm kind of the rare dinosaur here at St. Patrick's Center because we do workforce development in this department. When I first got here, I realized that about 50% of our clients were somehow justice involved. And so my thoughts kept going to, well, what are we going to do to help them? And after, convincing other people around that we needed to help them, we finally was able to do just a couple of day reentry workshop. Found that that was pretty successful and ended up getting a really small grant from the Lutheran Foundation, believe it or not, to help further that program on. We addressed we first off always have our clients go through job readiness training because workforce development obviously has to deal with employment. But once they complete that, in order to give them extra support on things like we talk about cognitive behavior, how did you get there to begin with? How to address interviews, what your background, how to address that with an employer, um, any of those types of things. We have guest speakers, people that have actually been in their shoes that have come out and are very successful now. So they get quite a range of what they can do to have help. We can also give them resources and places to go for support through that. Um, the other thing that we do after that is that they each have an assigned case manager to work with them, and we have found that that's been helpful. We have no time period on how they move through and work with their case manager, which is we find have been very beneficial. Some programs, you have to be done in 6 months. Well, here, it's you work at your own pace. As just in general, finding out some of the barriers that we were facing with the population had to do with mental health. And so if we're going to, what are we going to do about that? So one of the things that we have currently done is we've got a licensed clinical worker a social worker on staff. We also have a mental health specialist who actually she just works with the clients strictly in employment avenue, helping them with their soft skills so they not only get employed but they stay employed. We have also developed career paths. We don't, so they don't just come out, they just get a job and, that doesn't support them. So we want to make sure that once they're employed, that they're ready for employment, that they get employed, and not just that they get a job, but they could get a job where they actually can build enough skills to be self-sustaining. One of the first things that we actually did was we started a barista program. And the reason for starting the barista program is I had noticed that no one wanted to attend school. They didn't want to do anything that took a great length of time. So I thought, okay, so what are we going to do here to get them past that point? Well, we happen to love coffee here in St. Louis. Seattle does have us beat, but we're up there about number 10 or 11, somewhere in there. So I decided that, that was something that could be sustainable. It did give them the opportunity to move up. Starbucks is actually great about providing them with a college education if they want to. So the choice was theirs, and we was working with Starbucks at the time. So we started there. We then through a lot of things that I came in contact through was with the Catholic Charities USA. We actually started working with Fair Start. We now have opened a cafe in our central library about 3 blocks from us. And what we do is we provide training for the baristas. They have their choice is they have several different career path choices. One, they can go on and learn how to do box lunches, like in line prep. They can apprenticeships. We have 6 different apprenticeships that they can go to in hospitality, or if they so desire, they can do an on-the-job training at Sacred Grounds. So that has really been starting to really show some good results for that. We also have another program that's called BEST, because it seems like when I first got here, everybody wanted to do janitorial training. We don't just use that for janitorial training, but we have found that it's been useful for seeing what a person's work ethics were, if they could make it to work on time, because they have to be there at 6 in the morning. Yeah, and so we see if they can make it on time, if they can take instructions from their supervisor, if they can do teamwork, and just in general how their attitude is, and that gives us some way of really working with them to make sure that they are successful. So our goal here is try to meet and eliminate as many of those barriers as possible before we get them hired. So their chance of staying on the job is, I say 90 days, that doesn't sound like much, but sometimes it's 90 days and then I'll see it's, 6 months and then eventually they get it and they stay. So we do try to do all we can before they get there. And we also have, with those mental health programs, that's hopefully we've just kind of started that will be really great. I would like now for you to talk to Will. He has experienced our program and some other things in life that he can talk to you more about.
Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be here. My name is Will Simmons, as I said, and I was in prison for 22 years. And it's one of those things where during my time of incarceration, I went to every program they had to offer in the state of Missouri. As far as I was a part of offenders offering alternatives, long distance days, and all that. And then towards the end of my time, when I was getting out, I was also involved in a program called Rec Fellowship, which is where Catholic Charity come in. They do a thing with individuals as far as helping them get resources. So a very pointed conversation I had because everyone just assumed that I had everything tied up together with it because I'd done so much in prison. And a guy came to me and said, "Hey, what are you planning on doing as far as employment?" I was like, "Well, let's get a job at the warehouse." That's my only goal. After all that, it's like, well, you've done all this, you've done all that, and your only aspiration is you're going to get a job at the warehouse. Well, because a lot of times when we're in prison, people always assume they say they put out as well. When you get out, the barriers are going to be so intense that you can't do anything to get fast food or a warehouse. So I just resorted myself to that, despite everything else I'd done in previous life. So he gave me the card of a young lady, whatever, right? He said, "Hey, I want you to reach out to her." I said, "Okay, well, whatever, I may do that." So a chance encounter a month and a half after I got out of prison, the same lady who I got that card, I ran to a foundation I was doing while I was doing some volunteer work, and it was that lady. She worked here at St. Patrick's Center. And so she was like, "Well, what are you doing?" She said, "Well, I'm really trying to get a job at a warehouse." I said, "I think you bring so much more to that, but at the time for being in prison," I said, "Well, no, I'm going to be like everyone else and get a job in the warehouse." So she pushed me and pushed me. I kept denying calls and kept doing that. And finally, I answered one of the calls and did that. And so she helped me get into this program here as far as going to reentry class and going to the job readiness training. Got me a job working in an insurance company like that. I really did well, really thrived on that, enjoyed doing it. And it kind of made my self-esteem a lot better because now guess what? I'm not working in the warehouse. There's other opportunities I had. Another thing, I back up a little bit. Prior to going to prison, I was in the Navy for 11 years as well, the Air Interceptor Control. And so an opportunity to open up where it needed a peer support here at St. Patrick's Center to kind of help individuals have substance abuse issues and other barriers. So her, with the help of the former CEO, got me a job working here. So that's what I was doing. And I've been working here for about 6 or 7 months, and Sue Haverman asked me, would I be interested in being a part of the reentry program? And then I said, yes, so I started doing that. And as Sue mentioned, a lot of things we do as far as getting people a starting line. Because a lot of times, like myself, individuals, we don't realize where that starting line is until someone helps them figure out where that is. So that's one of the things that I really try to do. And like Sue mentioned too, we have a lot of wraparound services. So one of the things that we really try to do is just give people an idea about these are the opportunities that are presented, because it's not as much hard as people think it is. But when you've been in prison, a lot of times you have criminal justice involvement, you lose your self-esteem. One of the other things that we really try to help people out is the things that a lot of us when we got incarcerated was we didn't have the access to technology. So basic things that people take for granted, like myself, for instance, being on the phone is a totally different thing. So we teach people, we offer resources as far as that, and gather resources as far as the different benefits that we can have that. I really enjoy what I do. I mean, when people run into me and meet them, and I get to try to share my story with them, it encourages them to know that, yeah, you can do better. You can be beyond the typical what people come out of prison as far as getting a job at a warehouse or anything like that. So that's really what I do. Also, I work with veterans as well. So it's kind of a two-tier thing. So I have the benefit. And you talk about individuals institutionalized. Imagine from the time I'm 18 years old, I've been only 2 places, either in the Navy or prison, with the exception of the last 2 years. So I think I bring a lot of relatability to the things that I do. So I'm grateful. I'm blessed for the opportunity St. Patrick's Center has offered me. I'm very grateful with Sue Haverman has allowed me to do that because, they take a chance. Anytime with any situation, they're taking a chance with me. So that's my story.
Yeah. And from all of this, we are, you said, second chance. We're applying now for a second chance grant, and we've been working pretty closely with the city. And the reason that's worked for us is because we have housing. So we have like two different programs that we combined in our grants to, to make it successful. So
Thank you, Sue. Appreciate it very much. Well, thank you for sharing your story as well. Karen Haeger from Catholic Charities in Dubuque.
Hi, thank you. Thanks. I'm really excited to be here. I tune into quite a few of these webinars and town halls, so I feel really honored to be able to share the work that we're doing in the Archdiocese of Dubuque. I do have a short presentation, so I'm going to share my screen. Okay, looks like that worked. Again, Karen Hoeger. I am the Reentry Coordinator for Catholic Charities in the Archdiocese of Dubuque. I do have a social work degree, and prior to Catholic Charities, I was a probation officer, problem-solving court coordinator, and supervisor in Colorado for many years. So most of my career has been in criminal justice. I don't like to assume that people know about Iowa, so the lower illustration is the state of Iowa. We're next to Wisconsin and Illinois, and under Minnesota, we are not the potato state, but we do get confused often. So the black line on the state of Iowa illustration is our archdiocese. We actually cover 30 counties, and the upper illustration is our 30 counties, just a little bigger. The black line that's kind of running down the middle separates our eastern and western areas. So I cover our eastern counties, and I have a colleague in our Waterloo office who covers the western counties. So we are the only employees that are doing this for the Archdiocese, covering those 30 counties, but with some support staff, but all the rest of our ministry is powered by volunteers. So that's pretty impressive and important work. We definitely wouldn't be able to do it without them. So what is it that we do? We serve anyone regardless of religion or background. Everyone who comes to us for support does so voluntarily. We start by focusing on individual needs, ensuring people have safe and stable housing, food, clothing, hygiene, or other household supplies. We help them navigate community resources to fill any of those needs. And when we have funding available, we also help them secure apartments with security deposits or first month of rent. We work individually with each participant to identify what their goals are and what their priorities are, what's important to them. We don't have any agenda for them coming into it. We want to know what they want to work on, who they want to become, where they want to see their life go. After I spend time getting to know each person, I match them with a volunteer mentor who provides one-on-one ongoing support in the community. So that can look different from relationship to relationship and based on what the person is looking for or wanting. So sometimes it's preparing for a job interview. Sometimes it's helping them get to the food pantry, but often it's just meeting for coffee or maybe sitting down for lunch and having a safe, reliable person that they can talk to and connect with. I also coordinate circles of support and accountability. This is a group of volunteers that work with one participant. They meet every other week typically, and they discuss progress and challenges. Again, the participant is telling them what is important to them, what their goals are, and then the circle is helping them problem solve, think about things, giving them other perspectives, finding resources, and just encouraging them and affirming them in what they're doing, that they're on the right track. Those affirmations are sometimes the most impactful thing that we do. And every circle and every mentorship relationship is safe and confidential. So they can come in and talk to us about whatever they want to talk to us about. Participants can have a mentor or a circle, or they can have both. It's really up to them. And then it's also based on what volunteers I have available. meet those needs. Each circle is scheduled based on the participant and volunteer schedules. So they can occur almost any time of the day, typically not in the middle of the night, but any weekday, evening, weekends, whatever works for the people that are involved. And mostly what we do is demonstrate that there are people in the community who care and want to walk alongside them, watch them succeed and be there for them. So just in my Eastern region, I currently have about 60 volunteers and about 40 who are active at any given time. We do accept volunteers who have been just this involved themselves. We encourage past participants to get involved and become volunteers. I serve about an average of 36 participants a month just in my Eastern region. And this includes people who don't have mentors or circles that I'm meeting with just to provide community resources to or other assistance to. I have an average of about 15 participants with mentors or circles. And then I wanted to let you meet Corey. So Corey is a past participant. Whoops. Got a little out of control on me. Okay. Corey is a past participant. This was recorded probably 2 years ago during our 90th anniversary. He had a mentor and a circle. He's no longer involved in the mentoring circle. He's phased that out. He has created a new life for himself and doesn't need that type of support any longer, but he still keeps in touch with his mentor and his circle. So here's Corey.
My name's Corey Flanagan. I started drug court, and that's how I got connected with Catholic Charities. Ever since I met Bill, he's been there for me and everybody in my circle really. But Bill, he's been there for multiple things. Like I've had surgery. He helped me get my license. Just somebody to talk to. Bill is my mentor, and he organized my circle. I don't really have like any family or anything. If I didn't have the people that are in my circle, or even the opportunity to be a part of the circle of support, I mean, I don't know where I would be at. I mean, they've helped tremendously with just even talking to them and helping me work through my goals and things like that. I'm working on getting my daughter back living with me and just continuing the way that I've been going, really. And I've got a good job and good car, things like that. If you didn't have hope, you really wouldn't make it anywhere, I don't think.
Well, that's Corey. Thanks for letting me share him with you. He mentioned he touched on some challenges to reentry, some barriers. Without his mentor, it would have been difficult for him to get his license and a vehicle. This is a list of barriers. I'm sure it's not everything, all the challenges to reentry, but definitely transportation, particularly in our town, is definitely a barrier. We have a city bus system that doesn't go to the location where the DMV is located. So people often struggle to get their photo IDs or to get their driver's license. So it's wonderful to have volunteer mentors in the community that are willing to take them to get some of these things done and eliminate, like Sue was talking about, eliminate some of those barriers. Housing is definitely number one. I'm very excited to hear from Christy about the potential HUD proposal coming down. I'm going to be praying hard for that because it's so hard for people with a criminal history to find a landlord willing to rent to them. And they're often not eligible for subsidized or affordable housing because of things in their criminal history. We also run into landlords taking advantage of people with the desperation of not being able to get someone to rent to them. We've had some landlords charging really high amounts for security deposits and things like that because they know that they've got someone that can't get anyone else to rent to them. I'm not going to go through this entire list. I was just going to touch on a couple. Corey also talked about that social support, not having a family and not having that social network. So having a mentor and a circle gave him a touchstone right off the bat where he had some good people come into his life and care about him and be there for him and help him problem solve and figure out how to complete his goals. And then I love pretty much everything that Father Greg Boyle has to say. So I just thought this quote was really fitting for this. When I give presentations, I often think about, it's a lot about like what we're doing for other people, but what we're getting back from people and how we're growing is immeasurable. I have volunteers that have been with us for over 15 years because of how rewarding and how much they grow and change as people, just being a part of this and just being able to meet the people that are coming out of incarceration, hearing their stories. The healthier our neighbors are, the healthier our community is, and the better for all of us. That makes it better for all of us. So Father Boyle says, you go to the margins so that the folks at the margins make you different. Then it's about us. I'll end with that. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you so much, Karen. And as someone who's in the reentry business as well, I can't emphasize enough about the accuracy of everything that you've said, especially the importance of accompaniment for our folks who are coming out of prison. So if anybody has any questions, we've got a couple of questions in the chat that I'll go to. If anyone has additional questions, please feel free to put them in the chat and I'll relay them to our various speakers. And the first two that we have are both, it appears, for Christy. Christy, one of our agencies has asked, saying that they have and of course now my chat is broken. There we go. They have a grant writer that suggested that they look into the into a Second Chance Act grant, but federal grants seem so overwhelming in terms of implementation and reporting. They just did their first state grant in Colorado, and they're having trouble keeping up with that. How do small nonprofits navigate something like this?
So I think that the best person or people who can answer the questions are those that are receiving second chance grants. But from what I've seen, the Department of Justice has several grants, especially under the Second Chance Act initiatives, where they offer webinars and technical support to nonprofits and other community-based organizations that want to apply for grants. And so it would be great if you could go to their website. And I'm sorry, I didn't come prepared to drop the link here, but I could share it with Karen and CPMC to share that in an email where you can sign up for their newsletters and get information about webinars and other engagements to help kind of walk you through the application process.
Okay, Christy, this one is for you as well. There's two here. One is someone has asked if you could please share your contact information again. Maybe the best thing to do is put that in the chat. The other is asking from the Milwaukee Diocese, has heard very little about Catholic Charities' work in this area. They have many policy issues in Wisconsin related to what you're talking about. How does Catholic Charities work in the various states, and is there anything going on in Wisconsin?
I will say, for context, there are 168 Catholic charities in the country, and they each Catholic Charities agency that's working within the diocese has can have several locations. So there are over 3,000 Catholic Charities locations across the country. And so each service location is different based on the needs of the local community that they're serving. And so I strongly recommend that you contact your local Catholic Charities agency and talk to them about their specific services that they're providing, because no two Catholic Charities agency is the same.
This is for Karen. Karen, how extensive is the training for volunteers to lead circles of support? What type of training do you use, or did you create it from your own programming?
Great questions. So Catholic, this program was here before me. I have been here for about 3 years. And Deacon Bill Hickson preceded me. And I believe, I'm sure he pulled from some resources, but I do believe he created most of the training himself. So we have a training manual that we use for all of our volunteers. I sit down and we go through that together before they even start. And now I'm kind of forgetting some of did that answer all the questions?
I think you did. I think you did. This is another good question. I'm going to throw this out for all four of you, actually. This is from someone who works for a multi-state Catholic health system, interested in employing second chance folks, but they aren't sure where to start. Exploratory discussions, any suggestions on who to partner with? Should they start with Catholic Charities local to the areas where they serve? Anybody?
I'll take a stab at it. So I think that's a good start. Contact your local Catholic Charities agency. They may already have a program in place, or maybe thinking about developing a program, a reentry program. So you want to connect with them and kind of talk through the process. Some states and local law enforcement agencies do administer, reentry programs. And so they may have a point person who can provide some guidance on public-private partnerships when it comes to reentry services. And then, as I mentioned, I will share the link to the Department of Justice website, where you may be able to also get some technical assistance and guidance from the federal level.
I'd also add, you might want to check with the jail and prison ministry if your archdiocese or if your diocese has one as well. I know that we do partnering with a number of different people here in Chicago that have employment services, and we're always looking for opportunities to be able to place our returning residents in full-time employment, meaningful full-time employment. It radically reduces the chance that they're going to recidivate. Thank you, everyone. We're going to send you back with 4 extra minutes of time. So the next time you're running late, remember you got these 4 back from us. Have a great, wonderful rest of the afternoon wherever you are. Take care, everybody.